Now, in previewing the CD, I also was distinctly reminded that that you were definitely a driving force in KISS when you were there for your 12 years. And KISS fans are going to hear this, and they're going to hear Revenge, they're going to hear Carnival of Souls, and I was wondering how your KISS experience influenced, what you're doing, and if you have anything regarding how much it changed you, or changed maybe your style.
I learned a lot from. Yeah, I learned so much. I mean, you got to realize I was there for 12 years, like you said, and then we worked with various producers. We sometimes just had Gene and Paul as producers. And then we worked with Ron Nevison, and then we worked with Bob Ezrin, and then we worked with Toby Wright on Carnival of Souls, and they all. I've always been the kind of guy in the studio that wanted to learn with whoever I'm working with. So even when Gene and Paul specifically worked with me, they both approached it differently. Gene was always like, "No, make the guitar part more sloppy, give it grease, don't be so perfect." And Paul being like, "All right, this has got to really, fit perfectly here." So everyone had their own approach. I think one of the biggest things I learned was what a mad scientist, mad professor Bob Ezrin was. And there's no accident why Bob was involved with many famous records, from Kiss albums to Pink Floyd success and Alice Cooper and Peter Gabriel. And that approach that Ezrin had was most similar to how Jeremy and I approached doing BK3, actually. Meaning, if it took 3 times to sing the song right, or starting from scratch on a song, that's what we did.
Right.
Okay. Because that's the way Ezrin works. So, again, I didn't intentionally go out there to try to say I want to make a Revenge-style record or a Carnival Soul-style record or any kind of KISS record. I just did the music I love. But the fact that you do hear some common elements is a testament to what I like musically and what I learned from being in that situation, being in KISS and watching people like Gene and Paul work with an Ezrin and having Eric Singer, play the best drums possible, having I just feel like all the performances on my record would be Ezrin approved, if you get what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah.
So that was the kind of goal that we had in mind.
Now,
I was 99.9% thrilled with Revenge, and I wanted to be equally as thrilled with BK3, of course.
Well, I think you nailed it. KISS was nominated, as you're aware, I'm sure, for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but I heard yesterday that they're not being inducted.
Happen, yeah.
How do you feel about that?
It's interesting. I was so excited knowing that they finally even recognized them and put them in that submission category or whatever, a nominated thing. And then I read an article in Rolling Stone on my Australian trip, and that I cut out, actually, how there was a discussion about the nomination process, and the paragraph that mentioned KISS, if you haven't seen the article, and I'm going to just paraphrase what I read because it was a week ago and it was on an international flight, but it was something like, there was a big debate in the office about putting KISS in that category, okay? And once I saw that, if they're debating it, they ain't going to make it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And as soon as I saw that paragraph, I was kind of like, it ain't going to happen. And sure enough, I just saw it on the news actually this morning, underneath the morning TV show that had the scrolling on the bottom, and there it was. I mentioned, I saw some things on Facebook last night, so I realized that the way a couple of people were writing posts, it doesn't sound like KISS got the nomination. You know what I mean? Or got the induction, chosen. But I still think it's run by snobs, and it don't matter a hill of beans, because KISS is iconic, and KISS is not going to go away, and KISS's impact on the music world and the fans and sheer sales and impressive figures throughout all these years eclipse any rock and roll induction as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, yeah. It's just, it's
a nice thing, KISS hasn't gotten any Grammy awards either, and you get what I mean. I mean, those things are always nice to have, don't get me wrong, but it don't matter.
Right.
I mean, it's always up to how do the fans come out and celebrate your work, and they sure do, in a big way, as you know.
Now, they sure do. I'm going to go back to BK3, and one thing that you said about it, when I was reading stuff on your website, you said that a lot of albums lack cohesion with different vocalists, but you have just a great transition from the start to the finish. And I'm wondering, just from listening to it beginning to end, how much effort was put into the order of the placements of the tracks? Because, when you listen to the first and the last song, it's, it's so different.
Right.
But if you listen to the whole thing, the cohesion is amazing.
Sure.
And, of course, your guitar playing, it really keeps it together.
Right. Well, that, of course, is the common thread. But what you're really asking about is how do you sequence a record?
Exactly.
And I remember Eric Singer and I talking about. He of course was very excited about Sonic Boom, and I'm real excited that Kiss put out a solid record this year. And so did Ace, actually. But the fans actually don't realize how important sometimes the sequencing can be. Yeah, we all have shuffle on our iPod or whatever. Back in the days when you just played CDs, there's a way to shuffle everything too. Shuffle the CDs, right? But the sequencing really does matter, and you have an instinct for it. I remember Jeremy and I, because once again that falls into a place that the producer should be very instrumental in that. And I know Paul was the one that finally chose what order the Sonic Boom should be in. You know what I mean? Because you have to have someone in charge.
Right.
And certainly Jeremy and I kicked around a few ways. We were in agreement with like 3/4 of it, and then there was a couple of like up in the airs that we weren't sure. Well, we could flip it like this. And then through the magic of iTunes, you make a little playlist. You try it out. You just try the beginning and the end and see how it flows. And I even still ask the guy who masters my record, because I know he does a lot of big hit albums, and he's been involved with records that won Grammys. So I'm like, what do you think? You'll have a team around you that hopefully has a good taste too. I mean, that's the whole reason why you use the team that you surround yourself, correct?
Right, right.
You make sure someone who knows how to do your taxes does your accounting, because you don't need any aggravation. So you want to ask people that have good taste in music, like, to just flow, So it's hard, but somehow the pieces of the puzzle all fall into place, and there's your record, So it is a challenge a little bit. Some of your goals are, well, you don't want to open up with the Gene track because that's pretty obvious. I got to come out and make a statement. So you see what I mean? There's a in the same way that a great baseball manager is going to stack the deck with knowing how to put his lineup up together to do the maximum damage to the other team. Your record has to have that kind of same approach. That tracks 3 and 4 got to be big. It doesn't mean that track 11 is weak, but it's going to be a different sentiment, the last song, compared to the first song.
Right.
In the same way that a baseball team has got to have the right batting order to do its job. So it's interesting, but that takes experience, and I'm very pleased with my sequencing. I didn't have a torment over it once I was down to the fine tuning of it with Jeremy, and I'm really glad I stuck with it.
Yeah, I really liked it, because I was randomly playing a couple songs here and there, and then there's a difference when you listen to the whole thing from start to finish.
I accidentally hit shuffle on some record that I was listening to, and I was like, this doesn't feel right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there is something to be said about sequencing.
Yeah, definitely something to see.
I don't think it's any different than editing a movie. Now, obviously, a movie's telling a story. You know what I mean? But many movies jump forward and back in time. Of course. So, but a good editor for a film is going to as well tell the story in a way that makes sense to you. So I think that's what you got to do with your album.